I'll fix it. You tell me.
Okay. Your head was high. There, that's probably better. Yeah.
Can you see the Windex bottle?
I can see the very top of it. There, that fixed that.
Hey, there you go. Look at that.
Semi-pro.
That looks pretty good.
That's
good enough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good enough for. Actually, let me fix it a little bit more. Show off the guitars in the background.
Oh, that's a good call. Oh, you want to go up a little? All right, I got you. Hey guys.
Hey, how you doing? How's that?
How's everybody doing? A little more. Little more. You want the headstocks, right?
Well, I don't think we'll ever get that.
Okay, you're good then.
Yeah, that's better. It works for me. That way you can't see me doing stuff like this underneath. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Live Chat. My name is Chris.
I'm Brian.
And this is Brian. Why are you here, dude?
Thanks for having me, because you asked me to be here.
Yeah. So Matt is in Texas visiting Jim.
Right.
And I guess when you're a snowbird like Jim, you go to Texas.
I guess. For a whole month.
For a month, yeah. So they took their camper, and Leslie can work remotely, his wife. And so they went to Texas, and Matt and Joy went down to see him because he doesn't know what Jim looks like in Texas. Yeah. Might be a completely different guy.
Thing, yes.
Yeah, that's what I think.
He's probably wearing a Speedo and cowboy boots. Wouldn't that be fun?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess he's been going around showing off Texas Toast guitars to guitar shops in Texas, which makes sense.
That's pretty
cool. Oh, got our first super chat. Dastardly Dave says, Brian made me do it. Thanks so much, Dave.
I'm over here. You're over there.
Joey Dano says, Brian made me do it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
I'm going to make you do some more.
I think I saw some pickups for a guitar for Joey Dano today on Dylan's Facebook feed or Instagram feed. And I think I know why, because it was a Firebird pickup.
Cool. Well, I hope he does the same thing to our friend Doug as he does to me when he etches the back of a pickup.
He sent me a picture of that last week, and I was like, I love your laser so much. It's so good. Because you can't get rid of that. I mean, you could grind it off or something.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought of.
Yeah.
It's
and then I saw it, and in the picture, I think you just showed me one, and then in the picture on Facebook, I saw your picture. It had it on both.
Right.
It's like, oh, this is just the best.
It's all in good fun.
That's so funny. Well, especially because, I think you wrote that on everybody's guitar last week too, or something on everybody's guitar last week. Yeah. Yeah, not the wrestler, because you weren't sure.
Yeah, I was scared.
Yeah.
He's a big dude.
Pick you up and body slam you.
I hope he's watching.
Yeah, me too.
What's up, Big Fitz?
So we got the usual suspects in here. Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good day. Hope everybody's getting ready for a good Valentine's Day tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you're looking forward to it, that's great.
I'm gonna take my best girl out, show her a good time. Sorry, I'm not the regular guy.
No, I know. Yeah. So what's been going on, Brian? What'd you think of last week's class?
Last week's class, I gotta tell you guys, that was 4 guys in the class, and every one of those 4 guitars were just spot on, gorgeous. I think the extra time that was spent because there was only 4 guys was a good thing. And yeah, those guys all made all really cool guitars, even though they're basically Fenders, but none of them were Fenders.
Right? Yeah. Yep.
Very cool though.
Somebody named Matthew Flaherty says, "Where's Matt Flaherty?" And it's not Matt Flaherty Matthew Flaherty is not Matt Flaherty.
It's not Uncle Matt.
No. Matthew Flaherty, I believe I'm actually working on a paint job for a guitar for him, if it's the same Matthew Flaherty. They're related. Matt is in Texas visiting our friend Jim, who went down there to spend a month in Texas. So, so this is how it's going to work. There's a reason that this is called part 1. We're going to do our thing from 5 to 5:30. Then with any luck, Matt and Jim and whoever else is there will do the second half from Texas. That's why ours is live from Colorado. He's going to be in Texas for the first ever Texas Toast live stream
from Texas.
In Texas.
Wow.
Yeah. Imagine that.
It's historic.
It is. It really is. It's a moment in time. We're making history tonight. So
Right,
I have nothing to talk about. I made up a thing. We can talk about that, but
we were talking about earlier, and this isn't. You guys should.
I'd rather almost just shoot the shit. Yeah.
Fine too.
Let's see what else is going on. Doc says, cheers, boys. Speaking of Firebirds, I've got the wings ready to go on mine. I need to get you those templates. I don't know where they are. Matt does. I will find them and get them to you. I'd like to think they're all together, but they may not be. So anyway, I'll get you those. All right. Doug wants to know what the Billy Bow is behind us. That is for the artist formerly known as Seal Beach Mike, now known as Atlanta Mike.
It's a cool guitar.
He moved. Yeah.
This is
so.
Can I pull it down? Or?
No.
Okay.
There may be a reveal tomorrow.
Oh,
I've got a couple. There's also a PRS right there for Jason. So we'll see if if I get the gumption up to do a reveal tomorrow, I could probably do that. It may be earlier than normal. I'll try and stay here till 5. It's funny when Matt's not here, I don't always have as much get up and go. And it was really, really cold. And it was really, really cold in the wood shop. Our heater went out, so we've been heating that unit with space heaters for a little while until the furnace people can come out and look at it.
Yeah, I don't think it got over 6 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday.
Yeah, it was frigid. And so I stayed in the main workshop. I didn't venture into the wood shop too much yesterday unless I had to. So yeah, got some other stuff done, but didn't get any wood stuff done yesterday. So Leptio says space heaters in a wood shop. Nothing could go wrong with that. Yep.
I don't think that's the biggest concern.
No. Goslin Creative wants to know, is anyone else signed up for the PRS workshop next month, or will I get to monopolize all of Matt and Chris's attention? That's a good question. And the answer is no. You are the only one that is signed up. However, we have an alternate or we have something planned for that, including Brian.
Yeah, I'm down to do that if you guys.
So I think what we're going to do is we're going to build. We're all going to build a guitar.
Oh, cool.
Paul's going to build a guitar. You're going to build a guitar. Matt's going to build a guitar, and I'm going to build a guitar.
Nice.
And I think Matt and I are actually going to do carved top Challengers because it's almost the same guitar. And then you guys can both build
PRSs.
PRSs. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Vinny's World says, Chris, loving the Challenger. What's the best way to clean the top and avoid rubbing off the pinstriping? Is guitar polish safe for the 73 finish? Those are both excellent questions. And the answer is yes. Guitar polish is totally fine for both the pinstripes and the 73 finish. The only thing you don't want to go at it with is something like nail polish remover, which would be stupid, or something really, really harsh. But the 73 finish is actually a catalyzed finish, and it's pretty durable. And then the pinstripes are done in sign painter's enamel, and it's pretty tough too. It's not as tough as the urethane finish, but it's pretty durable. So you shouldn't have any real issue using just about any polish that you would want.
Yeah, I think the Martin stuff is good. I think Steve makes one. Well, maybe not.
He's more into the oils,
Yeah,
into fretboard oils and things like that. But yeah, you could use Lemon Pledge if you want.
Super gentle stuff.
Yeah. One of my favorite things that I like to use on that stuff is automotive quick detail spray. You can buy it at the auto store. You can get a big jug that'll last you probably a lifetime in a spray bottle, and spray it on your rag and just wipe it off. It works really well. Has just enough of a shiny thing to make it look good. Vinny, I think that's your guitar too. I know it is. We need to get you those guitars. I'm not sure what the holdup is.
Oh, that one.
Mm-hmm. The one on the end. So yeah. No, I have a beer. Don't worry, Butch. Yeah. So anyway, so today's topic. Oh, so if anybody wants to sign up for the PRS class, let us know really soon, because we have to get stuff made for it. We have to get our order in from Steve for bodies and necks. Otherwise, it'll just be us four, and that'll be a fun class. Yeah, we were originally thinking that, well, Matt would teach the first half of it and I teach the second half. I'd just as soon spend the week making a guitar with everybody. So
cool.
Okay, so Vinny's moving. So okay, well, we'll get you a couple of guitars. That'll be good. And I'm sorry that it took so long. Things disappear and you forget about them.
Yeah.
So anyway, so let's talk about our topic. So something that the guys in the class last week, all four of them were guitar nerds in the best sense of the word.
Yes. And
they all spent 5 days talking about guitars. And one of the guys said, well, my mid-90s guitar, my late 90s guitar is now vintage.
What's that make me?
Double vintage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ancient.
No, but it blew my mind when I heard that.
But the thought that idea that something goes from guitar to vintage, all based on age, kind of strikes me as odd. And it's not an indictment of the guitar or it's how good or bad that guitar is, but it's not a vintage guitar, because when I think of vintage guitars, I think of guitars from the 50s and 60s. I definitely don't think of vintage guitars as something from the 70s, when people were buying the 50s and 60s guitars because they were better than the 70s guitars. Right. But over time, those 70s guitars have now become sought after as well, because people can't afford the 50s and 60s stuff. Doesn't make it a better guitar, because at one point, most of those guitars were looked down upon because they weren't as good as the 50s and 60s stuff. So where does that leave the 80s guitars and the 90s guitars? Or the 2000s guitars? Is a guitar from 2000 vintage? It's 25 years old. Does that mean it's vintage? No, it just means it's an old guitar.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it's not a good guitar. It could be a great guitar, but doesn't mean it's special because it's 25 years old.
Right.
That's what I think. So I just summed it up in 5 minutes. I guess we're done.
What was funny to me, though, is those guys, I think they were all born in the 80s, whether it was early to late, but I think they're all in their 30s.
They're all in their 30s or early 40s. And James told me he was in his early 40s.
And two of those guys were so into 80s music. It just blew my mind how much, they're talking about Van Halen, Journey, and that's great.
Funny because all that music predates them.
But it would be
because I'm 55 and that music is distinctly in my
you were growing
age
up.
Bracket.
But that would be like me only playing Chuck Berry and Elvis. Buddy Holly.
Well, and I think,
which is cool too.
And sometimes, I mean, a lot of music I think I liked because it was old.
Yeah, true.
And you heard little snippets of it. And a lot of that stuff I heard, when I was younger because my parents liked it. A lot of early rock and roll was because my parents liked it. Now I like way more early rock and roll than they did. But that's where I first heard Elvis, and that's where I first heard Buddy Holly and a bunch of doo-wop and stuff like that.
All the guys that I grew up liking, from the 60s and 70s, all based everything they did on those guys from the 50s. So,
yeah. Yep. And I think that has a lot to do with this whole vintage guitar thing and the idea that, a lot of your heroes in the 70s played guitars that their heroes played.
Right.
Eric Clapton famously buying all the guitars, all the Strats, and pulling them all apart and building two, great ones and giving the rest away to other people. And, the whole Les Paul thing, 59 Les Pauls is because of, famous rock and roll guys buying those guitars, seeking them out, passing them around between friends, buying new ones and giving the old ones away and whatever, new to them, and then the guitars that they should have been playing, not a lot of them did. The 70s stuff. Yeah. And the idea was, well, that stuff's not as good as the old stuff. Okay. And that may be, but that 70s stuff didn't get better because it's old now.
Right.
It didn't magically get good. Right. A bad guitar from 75 is a bad guitar 25 years later.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's like I was telling you, I bought a 76 Les Paul, but I bought the 76 Les Paul because I saw other guys playing Les Pauls. I didn't know anything about guitars at the time I bought that guitar, but it was the first really good guitar I could afford, and the only way I could afford it was it had a big old ding in the butt of it, and they gave me a huge discount because they couldn't sell it as new.
So, yeah.
But it's been a great guitar, but it's not. I've played since then other guitars from the 60s and even newer guitars that are much better, but it served me well for many years.
Yeah. Let's get to Joey Dano's super chat here. He says, we can get antique tags for any car over 25 years. We were talking about that earlier. They changed it here in Colorado to 30 years. So my 98 Buick has a couple more years before I can start rocking the antique tags on it.
That sweet ass Buick.
Yeah. Otherwise this year I'd be eligible for antique tags. Actually it would have been several years ago. I would have been eligible. Well, the other thing about old guitars is a lot of those guitars have had time and experience of people working on them and getting them playing really, really good.
Right.
And I wonder how many of those old guitars played that well
when they
first came off the line, or if somebody didn't massage that guitar into what it is now or what it is when the famous person got it.
Sure.
Because guitars wear out and guitars change. So, yeah. So in that situation, a guitar from 75 that wasn't any good, maybe 25 years later, given the right players, it could be a good guitar. Dan says he must be wearing a vintage t-shirt. Yeah, I have vintage shoes. I'm not wearing them today, but I do have some shoes that are 25 years old. And my fridge is vintage, I think, now, too, at home. The ice maker still works, too. So Doc says, I lost it.
I can't read from this far. So
yeah, Driddle says, I think 30 years is vintage. It doesn't mean it's collectible, but collectors salivate over that kind of thing, and it's really just an investment. Yeah, I think
that's right.
That may be. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird that. So ultimately, I guess my takeaway from that conversation was, I would rather have, if cost was the same, which it often is now, I would rather have a brand new guitar than one built in the 90s or the 2000s.
I would agree with that.
Now there's, special circumstances, limited editions, things they don't make anymore, things like that. But if we're talking, standard guitars, I think I would rather have a brand new Les Paul than one built in 2000.
Yeah, we were talking about that, and for me, it's kind of weird because I don't have a frame of reference for those guitars because I wasn't buying guitars in the 90s or the early 2000s. But I don't know of any innovations or any companies that were doing anything new or different that really made those guitars stand out. Even in the 80s, there were so many things happening, with Floyd Rose and all the Hamers and Kramers and all the Charvel Jacksons and all that stuff coming out. And I don't know if I can't think of anything from the 90s or the 2000s that really kind of tops what was going on then. 70s, you can throw that aside. 60s and 50s, that's when all the stuff, it was all new, right?
Right. Yeah. And
yeah, so new, I agree with you.
I think there's some romanticism to the way guitars were built in the old days, but they were built that way because that was the only way they could build them.
Right.
If they had CNC machines, they'd have used them. Right. And as soon as anything better came along, Hartley Peavey used technology from the gun stock world to make guitar necks and set the world on fire with Peavey T60s and all of that stuff. And you can say what you want to say about them. They were well-made guitars. They weighed a ton, but they were well-made guitars. And he advanced guitar manufacturing, and lots of people have advanced it as far as the day-to-day operations. And I think one of the problems in the 70s and the reason that quality started falling was because they were trying to make too much too fast. And that was the real issue. It wasn't that they wanted to rip you off. It's just that, prices on labor and everything kept going up. And so they had to increase production, and using old methods, increased production gets sloppy, I think.
Yeah, it was that and a lot of offshore outsourcing and
and then stuff
comes cost savings because they were being bought up by bigger companies for the most
part. And then stuff comes in from another country, and typically the reason that stuff comes in from another country to begin with is because you can sell it cheaper. Right. So you get all these imports that are kind of junky, but then they figure out, oh, well, if we can make them that cheap, we can make them a little bit better. And so that changes things. And then all of a sudden you have, really good Japanese guitars in the 80s that are cheaper.
Right.
And maybe better, at least on the same level as the American stuff, but way cheaper.
Yeah, I think they better in regards they were shred machines. Right?
Yeah, and more consistent too. Yeah, every guitar was the same, and I think a lot of this has to do with consistency. And I think a lot of bad guitars have just sort of faded away.
Yeah,
I haven't played a lot of old guitars. All the ones I play are neat, have been really neat and fun. I think a lot of the bad stuff just sort of dried up and blew away. Yeah. So,
we got anybody chipping in there?
Yeah, probably. Talk of pawn shop guitars and yeah, lots of good chat. So anyway, and I don't think saying that your 90s guitar, your 2000 guitar isn't vintage puts it down in any way. I don't think that demeans the guitar. Just means it's not.
Well,
when I think vintage guitar, it's 50s and 60s.
Yeah, I think if you have a 90s guitar, if you have a 90s Strat, chances are it's based on a 60s Strat.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing
Yeah.
that innovative in
No.
that era.
No. And yeah. The whole idea of a vintage instrument is the romantic idea, the romanticism of old things, and that old things are
shit. If that's the case,
cool. Yeah, look, here he is.
Baby.
Here he is. Yeah, and I mean, yeah. So one time I bought a set of 68 pearl drum kit.
Oh.
And this cool wrap, and I was trying to find out about it. So I joined a vintage drum forum, and hey, I just bought this neat 68 pearl vintage pearl drum kit, and literally the second comment was, "Those aren't vintage; they're just old." Which sort of hurt my feelings.
I bet.
Because
you had some.
Well,
but isn't that the way it goes on those?
Well, and it was because they weren't American made. They weren't, they weren't Rogers or whatever. That they weren't really. But they were still cool. Well, they were cool. Yeah. Were they the best drums ever? No. Did I pay the best drums ever price? No. But they were still cool, and they were old, and in the car world, they'd be vintage. So
the eye of the beholder. Right?
I guess, yeah. Ben Duncan, we know him, says vintage drum guys can be insufferable. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, I think some vintage guitar guys can be too.
He's a drummer, by the way.
Yes,
he also plays guitar.
I also had the same conversation when I was really young. I was just getting into guitars, and this guy and I were talking guitar collection, and I said, "Well, yeah, I have this, and this, and this," and I didn't have anything magical or neat. I had a couple of fairly neat guitars. And he was just like, "Ugh." But then he also told me about how when he changed strings, he would change them one at a time because he didn't want the neck to go cattywampus if it didn't have all the strings on it. And even back then, I knew that was really, really dumb.
I bet that guy's in a lot of forums these days.
Probably, yeah. He might be leading some of the forums. Right. Yeah, and he was, "Oh, I have this and this and this," and all I could think was, "Well, how do you clean off the fingerboard?" Yeah. Do you play these guitars? Right. Probably not. Terry Heim says, "I have an old set of Rogers drums. They might be vintage, Terry.
They might.
You don't even know. Yeah.
They might just be old.
They might just be old. Yeah. Where's the limit on that? I think we need to go here pretty quick.
All right.
I think 10 years to 24 years old.
10 years.
Over 25, vintage.
Yeah, I don't. No. But
all right.
It's in the eye of the beholder. And the bottom line is, if you think it's cool, then who cares?
And that's really the thing, is if you think it's cool, it's cool. Right. I have lots of old stuff that I think is cool that nobody in the overall scheme of things, nobody really cares about. Yeah. Including a 69 Buick that nobody likes it's not worth a whole lot. World, in the it's not a 69 Camaro. Right. Yeah. So anyway, we are just about done. I think we got another minute here. Stay tuned for Matt and Jim. Brian and I are going to sit here and watch it.
Yeah.
And be like, "Oh, they're so much better at this than we are." Well, than I am.
Matt, say what you want, and I say a lot, but he knows his stuff about this stuff. He has a flow.
He does, yeah.
Has a flow.
Yeah, he's better at talking than I am.
Well, and Jim too.
Saying
they're
words.
Both just full of, they're good at what
full
they
of
do. Good ideas, and
youthful exuberance. They're well oiled.
Yeah, and don't forget Dylan after them.
Yes, and then after that, stay tuned for Dylan and Leslie for at least an hour and a half of conversation. So anyway, let's be done. I don't want to get in their way. We will see you maybe tomorrow for a reveal.
See you in St. Louis, Ben.
See ya. Did it go? It didn't go. There we go.
I'm not very good at that.
Well, we're still not done, so we're
Hi, guys.
Yeah, I'm not very good at this. You're right.